I'm going to tell you the unforgettable true story of Emma Carter, a young graphic designer who was forced to take the night shift at a struggling tech startup, only to discover that the mysterious janitor working beside her was actually Alexander Thornton, one of the world's youngest billionaires, a man hiding in plain sight, and about to turn her world upside down in ways she never imagined. Emma's eyes burned as she stared at the glow of her computer screen, the only source of light in the cavernous open-plan office. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and she was alone. Or so she thought. The building hummed with the low drone of the HVAC system, a monotonous sound that had become the soundtrack to her isolation over the past 3 weeks. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city glittered like a constellation fallen to earth, thousands of lights marking lives being lived while hers seemed suspended in this fluorescent purgatory. She rubbed her temples, feeling the dull throb of a headache building behind her eyes. 3 weeks ago, her life had been different. She'd worked normal hours at Chin Digital, a mid-sized startup occupying the 14th floor of the Meridian Tower downtown. She'd had lunch breaks with her best friend Sophie, weekend brunches, a social life that resembled something almost normal for a 26-year-old trying to make it in the city. Then Marcus Chen, the founder and her direct supervisor, had called her into his office with that apologetic expression that immediately set her nerves on edge. "Emma, you know how much we value your work," he'd begun, and her stomach had dropped because sentences that started that way never ended well. "But we're in a critical phase. The Vandermeer pitch is make or break for us, and we need someone on the design team available around the clock to handle revisions from the development team in Bangalore. They work while we sleep, so we need," he trailed off, waiting for her to fill in the terrible blank. "Night shift," she'd finished, her voice hollow. Marcus had nodded, relief flooding his features. "Just temporarily. 6 weeks, maybe 8. And there'll be a differential in your pay, of course. 15%. What he hadn't said, but what had hung unspoken in the air between them, was that if she refused, there were a dozen other designers who'd take her place. The economy was brutal. Jobs were scarce. Emma had student loans that were far from paid off, rent on a tiny apartment that consumed half her salary, and a mother 3 states away whose medical bills from last year's cancer treatments still arrived with depressing regularity. So she'd said yes. Because what other choice did she have? Now, 3 weeks into her exile to the night shift, Emma had developed a strange relationship with the building after dark. The office transformed after everyone left. During the day, it was all controlled chaos, phone calls, the clatter of keyboards, the hiss of the espresso machine in the break room, the nervous energy of a startup trying desperately to survive its second year. But at night, the space became something else entirely. Quieter, yes, but also somehow larger, the shadows in the corners deeper, the reflections in the windows more pronounced. She was never completely alone. Security guards made their rounds every 2 hours, their footsteps echoing through the corridors. Occasionally, someone from the development team would video call her, their faces pixelated and distant on her screen. And there was the cleaning crew, or rather, the cleaner. A man she'd seen but never really noticed until recently. Emma stood, her lower back protesting after hours in the ergonomic chair that was decidedly not as ergonomic as advertised. She needed coffee. Bad coffee from the break room machine was still better than the exhaustion currently dragging at her limbs. As she walked through the dim office, motion sensor lights flickering on overhead, she became aware of a sound that didn't belong to the building's mechanical heartbeat. Music. Faint, but unmistakable. Something classical, violin-heavy, drifting from somewhere near the back of the office. Emma followed the sound, curiosity overriding her fatigue. The music grew clearer as she approached the open-plan workspace near the windows. Mozart, she thought, though her knowledge of classical music was limited to what played in coffee shops and elevators. She rounded a partition of frosted glass and stopped short. A man stood with his back to her, pushing an industrial cleaning cart. But he wasn't cleaning. He was looking out the window at the city below, completely still, as if the view had arrested him mid-motion. He wore the standard uniform of the building's cleaning staff, dark blue work pants, a gray polo shirt with "Meridian Services" embroidered on the back. His hair was dark and slightly too long, curling at the collar. His shoulders were broader than she expected for someone in a service position, and there was something in his posture, a kind of contained elegance, that seemed at odds with the industrial mop bucket beside him. As if sensing her presence, he turned. Emma's breath caught. She'd seen him before, of course. Passed him in hallways, noticed him emptying trash cans or wiping down desks. But she'd never really looked at him. Now, in the half-light of the office at midnight, with the city glowing behind him like a stage set, she saw him clearly for the first time. He was younger than she'd assumed, early 30s, maybe, though there was something ageless about his features. His face was all sharp angles softened by the shadows, a strong jaw, high cheekbones, a straight nose that might have been broken once. But it was his eyes that held her. Even in the dim light, they were striking, a gray-green shade like storm clouds over water, intelligent and assessing. Those eyes met hers with an intensity that made her feel suddenly, acutely aware of how she must look, ponytail askew, oversea. Z cardigan hanging off one shoulder, probably mascara smudged under her eyes. "Sorry," she said quickly, feeling like she'd intruded on something private. "I didn't mean to, I was just getting coffee, and I heard the music." He smiled, and the expression transformed his face entirely. It was a genuine smile, reaching his eyes, crinkling the corners in a way that suggested he didn't smile often enough. "No need to apologize. I should probably keep the volume down. I forget other people are here sometimes." His voice surprised her. It was educated, refined, not the accent she'd expected. There was a faint trace of something European underneath the American cadence, like he'd learned English somewhere else first. "You're one of the night shift people?" he asked, moving to turn down the small speaker balanced on his cleaning cart. "Emma Carter. Graphic design." She gestured vaguely back toward her desk. "You?" "Alex." He extended a hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. His grip was firm, warm, his palms slightly calloused. "I clean things." There was something in the way he said it, with a hint of self-deprecation, maybe even irony, that made her smile despite her exhaustion. "Well, Alex who cleans things, you have good taste in music." "Mozart?" His eyebrows rose slightly, impressed. "Violin Concerto No. 3. You know classical music?" "Not really." "Lucky guess." Emma found herself reluctant to let go of his hand, but eventually did, shoving her own hands into the pockets of her cardigan. "I was just on my way to get some terrible coffee. Want some? Or do cleaning staff have their own, better source of caffeine I don't know about?" Alex laughed, a low, genuine sound that seemed to warm the cold office air. "The coffee in the break room is universally terrible, regardless of employment status. But yes, I'd love some." They walked together through the silent office, motion sensors activating lights above them in a wave of illumination. In the break room, Emma busied herself with the coffee maker, acutely aware of Alex leaning against the counter behind her, watching. She could feel his gaze like a physical thing, though when she glanced over her shoulder, his eyes were on the city visible through the window, that same contemplative expression on his face. "Do you always work this late?" she asked, filling 2 mugs, one that said, "World's Okayest Employee," and another with the Chin Digital logo. "Most nights. I prefer it quieter. Less complicated." Emma handed him the logo mug and kept the self-deprecating one for herself. It felt appropriate. "I get that. Though I'd prefer it by choice rather than by forced assignment." Forced? She found herself explaining, about Marcus, about the Bangalore team, about the night shift she hadn't asked for but couldn't afford to refuse. Alex listened with a focus that was both flattering and slightly unnerving. Most people listened while waiting for their turn to talk. Alex listened like he was trying to understand not just her words but the spaces between them. "That's difficult," he said when she finished. "Being isolated like this. It takes a toll. You sound like you know from experience." Something flickered across his face, a shadow, there and gone. "I do." Emma waited for him to elaborate, but he sipped his coffee instead, wincing at the bitterness. She laughed. "I warned you it was terrible. You undersold how terrible. This is an affront to coffee beans everywhere." But he smiled as he said it, and Emma felt something shift in her chest. A loosening of the loneliness that had been her constant companion for 3 weeks. They talked for 20 minutes in that break room, about nothing consequential and everything that mattered. Emma learned that Alex read voraciously, classics, philosophy, contemporary fiction. That he'd traveled extensively but was vague about where. That he had opinions on architecture and city planning that suggested education far beyond what she'd expected. Into RN, she told him about her design work, her frustrated ambitions to work for one of the big agencies, her tiny apartment with the radiator that clanged like a death rattle every morning at 6. When she finally glanced at the clock, 12:47 a.m., she gasped. "I've been gone almost an hour. I have 3 mock-ups due by morning. Then I should let you work." Alex pushed off the counter, carrying his half-finished coffee. At the door, he paused. "Emma?" She turned. "If you need company during your shift, I'm usually on this floor between midnight and 5. The offer of terrible coffee and conversation stands." She found herself smiling, the first genuine smile in weeks. "I might take you up on that." After he left, the office felt less empty than it had before. Emma returned to her desk with renewed energy, her fingers flying over her graphics tablet. But every so often, she'd pause and listen for the faint sound of Mozart drifting through the silent office, and she'd smile. Underscore 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 underscore. The next night, Emma found herself glancing at the clock more frequently than usual. By 11:30, she'd finished 2 of her assigned mock-ups and had a third in progress, but her focus kept drifting. She told herself it was just the appeal of having someone to talk to, of breaking up the monotony of her isolation. It had nothing to do with the way Alex had looked at her, or the warmth of his hand, or the intelligence in those storm-gray eyes. At midnight, she gave up pretending to work and headed toward the back of the office. Alex was there, exactly where she'd found him the night before, though tonight he was actually cleaning, running a microfiber cloth over the glass walls of one of the conference rooms. The music playing was different. Piano this time, something melancholy and beautiful she didn't recognize. Chopin, Alex said without turning around, as if he'd sensed her question. Nocturne in E-flat major. Is all your music sad and beautiful? Emma leaned against the doorframe, watching him work. There was an unexpected grace in his movements, an efficiency that suggested he'd done physical labor before but hadn't started there. Is there any other kind worth listening to? He turned, that small smile playing at his lips. Finished your mock-ups? 2 down, 1 to go. I'm procrastinating. By seeking out the cleaning staff? By seeking out decent conversation. There's a difference. Alex set down his cloth and gestured toward the conference room. Want to procrastinate in comfort? These chairs are considerably better than the break room. They settled into the leather executive chairs around the long conference table, chairs Emma had always felt too junior to sit in during the daytime. Alex produced a thermos from his cleaning cart. Please tell me that's not more break room coffee, Emma said. French press from home. I learned my lesson. He poured some into the thermos cap and handed it to her. Try it. Emma sipped and felt her eyebrows rise. It was incredible, rich, smooth, with notes of chocolate and something faintly nutty. Okay, this is unfairly good. What is this? Jamaican Blue Mountain. A friend sends it to me. Emma took another sip, savoring it. You have friends who send you $100 a pound coffee? Alex's expression flickered, amusement mixed with something else she couldn't identify. I have eclectic friends. They fell into conversation again, easier this time, like picking up a thread from the night before. Alex asked about her design work, and Emma found herself explaining her process, her influences, the way good design was invisible until you noticed it, the way it shaped how people moved through the world. You love it, Alex observed. The way you talk about it. You light up. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. It's one of the few things I'm actually good at. That and making mediocre pasta. I doubt the pasta is mediocre if you care about it even half as much as you care about design. Here was something in his tone, a certainty, a conviction, that made Emma study him more closely. What about you? What do you care about? Alex was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of the thermos cap. Fixing things, he said finally. I like taking things that are broken and making them work again. Understanding why they failed in the first place. Is that why you're a janitor? Because that seems like it requires a different skill set. He laughed, but there was an edge to it. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of problem solving in maintenance work. And it's honest. You clean something, it gets clean. Immediate results. No ambiguity. Emma sensed there was a story there, something deeper, but before she could probe further, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Problem? She asked. Nothing I can't handle. But he stood, sliding the phone back into his pocket. I should get back to work. Floors won't clean themselves. Emma felt the dismissal like a door closing. She stood too, handing back the thermos cap. Thanks for the coffee. The real stuff. Anytime. His smile returned, softer this time. Same time tomorrow? I'll bring the mediocre pasta. Now you're just trying to intrigue me. As Emma walked back to her desk, she realized she was smiling. The office felt different now, less like a prison and more like a space with hidden corners worth exploring. And Alex. Alex was the most interesting corner of all. Underscore 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 underscore. Over the next week, Emma and Alex fell into a rhythm. Every night around midnight, they'd meet in various locations around the empty office, the conference room, the break room, once on the floor near the windows with takeout containers between them. Emma's pasta had been replaced by Thai food from the place that stayed open until 2 a.m. They talked about everything: books, travel, the strange intimacy of the city at night, the weight of obligations neither of them fully explained. Emma learned that Alex had opinions on everything from urban planning to classical literature, that he spoke at least 3 languages fluently. She'd overheard him on the phone once, switching seamlessly from English to what sounded like Italian, that he had a dry wit that caught her off guard and made her laugh in a way she hadn't in months. What she didn't learn was anything concrete about his life outside these walls. Where he lived. What he did during the day. Why someone with his obvious education and intelligence was cleaning offices at night. Whenever she probed, he deflected with humor or turned the conversation back to her. It should have been a red flag. Instead, it made him more intriguing. On the 8th night, Emma arrived at their usual meeting spot, the conference room with the city view, to find Alex already there. But he wasn't alone. A woman stood with him, tall and severe in an impeccably tailored suit despite the late hour. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ruthless bun, her expression glacial as she spoke in low, urgent tones. Alex's body language was tense, his shoulders rigid in a way Emma had never seen. Emma froze in the doorway, suddenly feeling like she'd walked in on something intensely private. She started to back away, but Alex looked up and saw her. Something in his expression shifted, frustration giving way to what looked almost like relief. Emma. He said her name like a lifeline. The blonde woman turned, her blue eyes scanning Emma with the efficiency of a security checkpoint. This is the designer? Her tone suggested Emma was not what she'd expected, and not in a good way. This is Emma Carter, Alex said, his voice taking on a harder edge. Emma, this is... Leaving, the woman interrupted, her gaze snapping back to Alex. We'll discuss this later. You can't avoid it forever. She swept past Emma without another word, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. Silence settled in her wake. Emma stepped into the conference room, watching Alex's face carefully. Should I ask? Probably not. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking suddenly exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical fatigue. She's complicated. Ex-girlfriend? Alex laughed, sharp and humorless. God, no. More like a particularly persistent obligation. Emma settled into her usual chair, pulling her knees up to her chest. You don't have to tell me. We don't. This doesn't have to be that kind of friendship where we share everything. What kind of friendship is it, then? Alex asked, finally looking at her directly. The city lights behind him turned him into a silhouette, unreadable. Emma considered. The kind where we're both hiding from something, and we respect that. The kind where midnight matters more than daylight. He moved then, crossing to the window, his hands in his pockets. What are you hiding from, Emma? Same as everyone else, I guess. Disappointment. The gap between who I am and who I thought I'd be by now. The feeling that I'm running out of time to become someone who matters. She said it lightly, but the words tasted like truth, bitter and necessary. Alex turned, and in the ambient light from the city, his expression was heartbreakingly open. You matter. To who? My landlord? My student loan servicer? To me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither of them was quite ready to unpack. Emma's heart did something complicated in her chest, a flutter, a clench, a leap. Alex. I know. He held up a hand. I know this is strange. We barely know each other. We're from completely different worlds. But these past nights, talking to you, it's the most real thing in my life right now. The only thing that feels true. Emma stood, crossing to stand in front of him. She was close enough to see the faint stubble on his jaw, close enough to catch the scent of him, clean soap and something else, something expensive that didn't match the janitor uniform. Close enough to be dangerous. What are you hiding from, Alex? She asked softly. His jaw worked, like he was physically struggling with the words. Expectations. A life that was chosen for me before I was old enough to choose for myself. The weight of being someone I'm not sure I want to be. That's pretty cryptic. I know. And I'm sorry. But right now, in this office, at midnight, I'm just Alex. Just a guy who cleans floors and listens to classical music and talks to a brilliant designer who doesn't know how extraordinary she is. Can that be enough? Just for now? Emma should have said no. Should have pressed for answers. Should have protected herself from whatever this was, this strange, intense connection forming in the hours between night and morning. But when she looked into those storm-gray eyes, she found herself nodding. Just for now. Alex exhaled, relief softening his features. His hand came up, hesitating near her face, and Emma found herself leaning into the almost touch. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather-light, there and gone. I should let you work, he murmured, but he didn't move away. I should let you clean, she countered, but she didn't move either. They stood there, suspended in a moment that felt like standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying and wonderful. Then Alex's phone buzzed again, shattering the spell. He stepped back, checking the screen, and Emma saw his expression shudder. I have to go. Something I can't avoid. He paused at the door. Tomorrow night? Tomorrow night, Emma confirmed, and watched him disappear into the shadows of the office. Alone again, Emma pressed her palms against the cool glass of the window and tried to steady her racing heart. This was dangerous. She was developing feelings for a man who was, by any objective measure, an enigma. A janitor who served $100 coffee and spoke multiple languages and had severe blonde women in business suits hunting him down at midnight. But God help her, she didn't want to stop. underscore 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 underscore. The next night, Alex didn't appear at midnight. Emma tried to focus on her work, telling herself it didn't matter, that he probably just had other floors to clean or had taken a night off. But by 1 a.m., she was checking over her shoulder every few minutes. By 2 a.m., she was wandering the office, ostensibly stretching her legs, actually searching for any sign of him. At 2:30 a.m., she found the cleaning cart abandoned near the elevators. His small speaker was there, silent. The French press thermos sat in the cart's holder, and Emma felt something twist in her chest at the sight of it. She was about to head back to her desk when she heard voices, low, tense, coming from the stairwell. The door was slightly ajar, and Emma knew she should walk away. Eavesdropping was wrong. Invasion of privacy. But her feet carried her forward anyway, and she found herself standing just outside the door, listening. "Can't keep doing this, Alexander." A man's voice, older, with an accent more pronounced than Alex's had ever been. British, maybe, or European. "The board is asking questions. Investors are getting nervous. You can't just disappear into the night indefinitely." "I'm not disappearing. I'm working." That was Alex, but his voice was different, harder, with more authority than she'd ever heard from him. "You're hiding. And may I remind you, you're the CEO of a $30 billion company. You don't have the luxury of hiding." Emma's breath stopped. $30 billion. CEO. This had to be a mistake. Had to be. "I'm taking time to understand things from the ground level," Alex continued. "You wanted me to be more connected to the operations, more hands-on. Well, this is me being hands-on. This is you playing pretend." The other man's voice was sharp with frustration. "You're a Thornton. Act like it." Thornton. The name hit Emma like ice water. Thornton Industries. One of the largest tech conglomerates in the world, with holdings in everything from software to aerospace. And Alexander Thornton III, the young CEO who'd taken over the company 2 years ago after his father's retirement, was something of an urban legend, brilliant, reclusive, worth somewhere north of $8 billion personally. Alexander Thornton III, who apparently spent his nights pretending to be a janitor in a building his company probably owned. Emma's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. The movement must have made a sound because suddenly the stairwell door swung open fully and Alex was there, his eyes widening when he saw her. "Emma!" She ran. It was instinctive, irrational, but she couldn't stand there and look at him, couldn't process what she'd just learned. She heard him call her name again, heard footsteps behind her, but she was faster, dodging through the maze of cubicles and partitions until she reached her desk. She grabbed her bag with shaking hands. "Emma, please." Alex appeared, blocking her path to the elevators. He'd discarded the gray polo shirt for a white dress shirt that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and the transformation was complete. He didn't look like a janitor anymore. He looked like exactly what he was, powerful, wealthy, from a world so far removed from hers it might as well be a different planet. "You lied to me." Her voice shook with anger and hurt. "I never lied. I just didn't." Didn't tell the truth? That's the same thing, Alex. Or should I call you Alexander? Mr. Thornton? Sir? The last word came out sharp with sarcasm. His jaw tightened. Alex. I'm still just Alex. No, you're not. The words burst out of her, louder than she intended. You're a billionaire CEO playing dress up. I'm just some joke to you, aren't I? Some poor designer you met slumming it on the night shift. God, you must have been laughing at me this whole time. That's not true. He took a step toward her, and she took one back. Pain flashed across his face. Ma, everything I told you was real. The conversations we had, the connection, that was all real. How would I know? How would I know anything about you is real? Tears burned at the corners of her eyes, and she hated herself for them. Who does that, Alex? Who lies about who they are for, what, kicks? Research? A weird rich person bet. I wanted to be seen. His voice dropped, raw with something that sounded like desperation. For once in my life, I wanted someone to look at me and see just a person. Not my net worth. Not my family name. Not what I could do for them. Just me. So you chose me? Some random night shift worker who'd never know the difference? Emma shook her head, bitter laughter escaping. That's not connection, Alex. That's just you using me to feel normal. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, this looks like I was part of some rich guy's slumming experiment, and I fell for it like an idiot. Alex ran a hand through his hair, frustration and hurt warring in his expression. You weren't an experiment. You are, the most genuine thing in my life. Do you have any idea what my world is like? Every person I meet wants something. Every conversation has an agenda. Every smile is calculated. But you talked to me like I was human. You shared your dreams, your fears, your terrible pasta. Despite everything, Emma felt a laugh catch in her throat, but it came out more like a sob. That doesn't make this okay. I know. Alex's shoulders sagged. I know, and I'm sorry. I was going to tell you. I was trying to find the right moment, but there never seemed to be one, and every day I didn't tell you made it harder and, he stopped, looking at her with such naked vulnerability that it hurt to see. Please don't leave. Let me explain everything. Let me. No, Emma sidestepped him, heading for the elevators. I can't do this right now. I need to think. Emma. She jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, tears streaming down her face now. I need you to not be here when I come in tomorrow night. Can you do that? Can you just leave me alone? The elevator doors opened. Emma stepped inside and finally looked at him. Alex stood in the middle of the office, the city lights casting long shadows around him, and he looked utterly lost, this billionaire CEO who could probably buy and sell her entire life 1,000 times over. For a moment, she almost weakened. Then the doors closed, and Emma slumped against the wall and cried. Underscore 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 underscore. Emma called in sick the next night. and the night after that. On the third night, Marcus called her personally, his voice tight with barely suppressed panic. "Emma, I need you here. The Bangalore team sent over changes that need to be implemented immediately, and you're the only one who understands the design language we've been building." "I'm sick, Marcus." "You sound fine. It's a 24-hour thing." "It's been 72 hours. Emma closed her eyes, pinching the bridge of her nose. Her apartment felt too small suddenly, the walls pressing in. She'd spent the past 3 days cycling through anger, hurt, embarrassment, and something she didn't want to name that felt suspiciously like heartbreak. Which was ridiculous. You couldn't have your heart broken by someone you'd known for barely 2 weeks. Except apparently you could. "I'll be in tonight," she said finally. "Thank God. Emma, I don't know what happened, but I'll be there at 11. She hung up before he could finish. That night, Emma walked into the office with her spine straight and her expression carefully neutral. She'd worn her armor, the good jeans, the fitted blazer, makeup that made her look put together even if she felt like she was falling apart. If she ran into Alex, she'd be calm. Professional. Unaffected. The office was empty. Silent except for the ever-present hum of the HVAC. Emma settled at her desk and opened her laptop, determined to focus. But focus was impossible. Every sound made her look up. Every shadow made her heart rate spike. By midnight, she accepted that she was waiting for him despite everything. By 1 a.m., the disappointment that he'd actually listened to her request felt like a weight on her chest. At 2 a.m., she gave up pretending to work and went to the break room for coffee she didn't want. As she waited for the machine to finish its gurgling death rattle routine, she became aware of something different. The cleaning cart was there, parked in its usual spot by the supply closet. But Alex wasn't. Instead, there was an envelope balanced on top of the cart with her name written in elegant script. Emma's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten on heavy cream paper that probably cost more per sheet than her entire notepad. "Emma, I'm writing this because you asked me not to be here, and I'm trying to respect that even though every instinct I have is screaming at me to camp outside your office until you talk to me. My security team thinks I've lost my mind. They might be right. You were right about a lot of things. I did choose you because you didn't know who I was. I did hide the truth because I was afraid of how you'd look at me once you knew. That was selfish and unfair to you. But you were wrong about one thing, you were never a joke. You were never an experiment. You are, the first real thing I've experienced in years. I know you have questions. I owe you answers. If you're willing, I'd like to give them to you. Not here, where my world and your world collide uncomfortably. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere we can talk without the weight of all this between us. There's an address at the bottom of this page. It's a place that matters to me, one of the few places in this city where I can breathe. If you come tomorrow night, tonight, by the time you read this, at midnight, I'll be there. I'll answer every question you have. I'll tell you everything. And if you don't come, I'll understand. I'll make sure you never have to see me again. I'll have my people arrange for a different night shift assignment for you, somewhere you can work in peace. Or I'll fund Shin Digital's project so well that Marcus never needs night coverage again. Whatever you need to feel comfortable. You deserve someone honest. Someone uncomplicated. Someone who can meet you on equal ground. I'm none of those things. But I'm trying to be better. You make me want to be better. Whatever you decide, thank you. For seeing me. For talking to me like I was human. For bringing mediocre pasta and making midnight something I looked forward to. Alex. P.S. The coffee in the thermos is yours if you want it. French press, the good beans. I thought you might need it. Below his signature was an address Emma didn't recognize, somewhere in the warehouse district by the river. She read the letter 3 times, her emotions a tangled mess. Part of her wanted to crumple it up and forget she'd ever met Alex Thornton. Part of her wanted to Google him immediately and see what his world actually looked like. The largest part, the part that scared her, wanted to go to that address and let him explain. Emma looked at the thermos. Steam rose from it, which meant he'd been here recently. Maybe he was still in the building. She could find him right now, demand answers, get this resolved immediately. Instead, she poured herself a cup of the good coffee, sat in the conference room with the city view, and let herself feel everything she'd been avoiding for 3 days. By dawn, she'd made a decision. Underscore 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 underscore. The address led Emma to a neighborhood she'd never been to, industrial buildings converted into lofts and art galleries, streets that felt abandoned and alive at the same time. It was 11:45 p.m. when she parked her beat-up Honda, the one with the check engine light that had been on for 6 months, in front of a building that looked like an old factory. Brick walls, high windows, a heavy metal door with a number but no name. She sat in the car for 10 minutes, debating. This could be a terrible idea. Alex could be a serial killer for all she knew. Rich people were weird, everyone knew that. She could be walking into some bizarre situation she'd regret. But at midnight, she found herself pressing the intercom button. Emma. Alex's voice crackled through, relief evident even through the static. I wasn't sure you'd come. I'm here. Doesn't mean I've forgiven you. Fair enough. 5th floor. Elevators to your right. The door buzzed open. Emma stepped into an industrial chic lobby, exposed brick, polished concrete floors, steel beams overhead. The elevator was the old freight kind, with a metal gate that rattled when she closed it. Her stomach jumped as it lurched upward. The 5th floor opened directly into a massive loft space. Emma stepped out and felt her breath catch. It was beautiful. Enormous windows overlooked the river, the city skyline a glittering backdrop. The space was open but carefully curated, comfortable furniture mixed with what looked like expensive art, bookshelves lining one wall floor to ceiling, a kitchen area with professional-grade appliances. But what caught her attention was the wall of photographs. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all in simple black frames. Cityscapes at night, street scenes, candid shots of people going about their lives. They were remarkable, intimate, honest, capturing moments of beauty in the mundane. I take them when I can't sleep. Alex's voice came from behind her. Which is most nights? Emma turned. He stood near the kitchen, wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, barefoot. He looked nervous, hands in pockets, shoulders tense. He looked, she realized, like just Alex again. Not the janitor. Not the billionaire. Just the man she'd talked to at midnight. "You're good," she said, gesturing to the photos. "Really good. Thank you." He moved close. Our butts stopped several feet away, respecting her space. "Can I get you something? Wine? Coffee? I promise it's better than the office variety." "Answers," Emma said. "You promised me answers." "Okay." Alex gestured to the seating area. "Ask me anything." They settled on opposite ends of a leather sofa, close enough to talk, far enough to maintain distance. Emma pulled her knees up, armor against vulnerability. "Why?" she asked. "Why pretend to be a janitor?" Alex was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Do you know what it's like to have your entire life decided before you're old enough to vote? I was groomed to take over Thornton Industries from the time I could walk. The best schools, the right internships, the correct social circles. I became CEO at 29 because my father had a heart attack and decided it was time. I didn't choose it. It chose me. Most people would kill for that opportunity. Most people haven't lived in that cage." His voice was soft but edged with something raw. "Every decision I make affects thousands of employees, billions in assets. Every person I meet sees Alexander Thornton III first and me never. I started feeling like I was disappearing inside this role I was supposed to play." Emma's anger softened slightly despite herself. "So you decided to, what? Find yourself through manual labor?" "I decided to try to understand what normal felt like. I own this building, among others. I started coming here at night, just walking around, thinking. One night I ran into the real night janitor, guy named Miguel, and we started talking. He told me about his life, his work, and for the first time in years, I had a conversation with someone who wasn't trying to get something from me. It felt free." Alex ran a hand through his hair. "Miguel needed to take a few weeks off to care for his sick mother. I offered to cover his shifts. It started as a crazy impulse, but then it became something more. It became the only time I felt like myself. And then you met me. And then I met you." His eyes found hers, storm gray and impossibly earnest. "Emma, I swear to you, I didn't plan that. I didn't know there'd be someone on night shift that week. When I heard your voice, saw you standing there, I thought I'd just nod hello and keep cleaning. But then you asked about the music, and you smiled, and you treated me like a person, and I couldn't walk away." Emma felt her throat tighten. "You should have told me the truth." "I know. But I was terrified. Terrified that if I told you, everything would change. You'd look at me differently. You'd want something from me. Or worse, you'd be intimidated and pull away entirely." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Those conversations with you were the only honest thing in my life. I've never talked to anyone the way I talked to you. Because I didn't know who you really were. No. Because you saw who I really was underneath everything else." Alex's voice dropped. "You saw me, Emma. Not my bank account. Not my company. Not my last name. You saw me struggling with expectations and feeling trapped and trying to figure out how to be better. And you shared yourself with me the same way. That was real." Emma wanted to stay angry. Wanted to hold on to the hurt and betrayal. But sitting here, listening to him, watching the vulnerability in his expression, she felt her defenses cracking. "I Googled you," she admitted. "After I found out. There are hundreds of articles. the youngest self-made billionaire of his generation. The tech genius revolutionizing multiple industries. The most eligible bachelor in the country. That's who you really are. That's what I do. It's not who I am. Alex shifted closer, still not touching but near enough that she could feel the warmth of him. Emma, I've dated women who saw my net worth before they saw my face. I've had friendships end the moment someone found out my last name. I've watched people I trusted use me to advance their careers. But you brought me Thai food and complained about your radiator and laughed at my pretentious music choices. You made me feel human. That's not fair to put on me. You're right. It's not. He finally reached out, his hand hovering near hers on the sofa cushion. I'm not asking you to fix me or complete me or any of that romantic movie nonsense. I'm just asking for a chance to start over. Honestly this time. Let me take you on a proper date. Let me show you who Alexander Thornton really is when he's not hiding behind a cleaning cart or a corporate title. Emma looked at his hand, so close to hers. One touch and everything would change. She'd be choosing to step into his world, with all its complications and impossibilities. What if I don't fit? She asked quietly. In your world. I'm a struggling designer with student debt and a car that barely runs. You're a billionaire. We're not exactly compatible. Who says? Alex's finger brushed hers, barely contact but enough to send electricity up her arm. Some of my best friends started as janitors and baristas and teachers. Money doesn't determine compatibility. Values do. Dreams do. The way someone makes you feel at 2 a.m. when you're both exhausted and real with each other, that determines compatibility. Emma's breath hitched. This is crazy. Probably. We barely know each other. Then let's get to know each other. For real this time. She looked up, meeting his eyes. In them, she saw the same vulnerability, the same hope and fear she felt. This man who could buy anything in the world was asking her, Emma Carter, nobody special, for a chance. One date, she said finally. One honest date where you're you and I'm me and we see if this thing between us is real or just midnight magic. The smile that broke across Alex's face was like sunrise. One date. I promise you, it will be the most honest date you've ever been on. No fancy restaurants. No helicopters or private islands or whatever rich people do. Where, the pen? Emma thought for a moment, then smiled. There's a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from my apartment. Best mediocre pancakes in the city. Meet me there tomorrow night. Midnight. Alex laughed, warm and genuine. Midnight pancakes. It's perfect. His hand finally closed over hers, warm and solid and real. Emma felt something settle in her chest, not certainty exactly, but possibility. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, this crazy thing could work. Emma? Alex's voice was soft. Yeah? Thank you. For coming tonight. For giving me a chance. She squeezed his hand. Don't make me regret it, Thornton. I'll do my absolute best not to. They sat there in his loft overlooking the city, hands linked, midnight stretching into early morning. Through the windows, the city glittered like something magical, and for the first time in weeks, Emma felt like she could breathe. Whatever this was, whatever they were becoming, it was worth exploring. It was worth the risk. And if midnight was their time, when masks came off and truth replaced pretense, then maybe they had a chance after all. Underscore 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 underscore. The diner was called Rosie's, though Emma had never seen anyone named Rosie working there. It occupied a corner lot with floor-to-ceiling windows that reflected the street lights in smeared halos. The interior was pure American nostalgia: red vinyl booths, a counter with spinning stools, a jukebox that only played songs from the 50s and 60s. At midnight on a Friday, it was half full, a couple of insomniacs nursing coffee, a group of college students recovering from finals, a taxi driver taking his break. Emma arrived first, sliding into her usual booth in the back corner. She'd changed 3 times before leaving her apartment, finally settling on dark jeans, a soft green sweater that made her eyes stand out, and the leather jacket she'd saved up for 2 years ago. Not trying too hard. Not underdressed. Somewhere in between. Her palms were sweating. At 1:02:03, the door chimed. Emma looked up and felt her heart do something acrobatic. Alex stood in the doorway, scanning the diner. He wore jeans, actual normal jeans, not designer ones that cost 4 figures, and a gray Henley under a dark jacket. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd showered recently. When his eyes found hers, his entire expression softened with relief. He slid into the booth across from her, and Emma caught the scent of him, clean, with that hint of expensive something underneath that she'd noticed before. Up close, in the harsh fluorescent diner lighting, she could see the faint shadows under his eyes, the line of tension in his shoulders. "You look nervous," she said. "I am nervous." Alex's laugh was self-deprecating. "I haven't been on a real date in 3 years." "What constitutes a fake date?" "Charity galas where you need a +1 who understands which fork is for salad." "Business dinners disguised as romance." "Arranged introductions by well-meaning relatives who think I need to settle down with someone from the right family." He shook his head. "This is the first time I've asked someone out because I actually wanted to spend time with them." Emma felt warmth spread through her chest despite her best efforts to remain guarded. "Well, Rosie's has exactly 1 fork per person, so you're safe." A waitress appeared, Denise, who'd been working the night shift as long as Emma had been coming here. She was in her 50s, all teased hair and tired eyes, but her smile was genuine. "Emma. Your usual booth. And who's this handsome thing?" "Alex. Friend of mine." Emma deliberately avoided labels. "It's his first time at Rosie's." Denise gave Alex an assessing look. "Well, honey, you're in for a treat. Coffee to start?" "Please," Alex said with a smile that made Denise actually blush. After Denise left, Emma leaned forward. "Okay, ground rules for this date. Complete honesty. No deflecting, no topic off limits. I ask you something, you answer truthfully. Deal?" "Deal. But it goes both ways." "Fair." Emma accepted the coffee Denise brought, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "First question, why are you really still doing the janitor thing? You said it makes you feel normal, but there have to be 1,000 other ways for a billionaire to feel normal." Alex added cream to his coffee, taking his time answering. Accountability, he said finally. When you're at the top of a company, everyone tells you yes. Every idea you have is brilliant. Every decision is genius. It's dangerously insulating. But when I'm Alex the janitor, people tell me the truth. They complain about management. They point out when the cleaning supplies are inadequate or the schedules are unfair. I learn more about the real problems in my buildings in one night as janitorial staff than I do in a month of executive meetings. Emma hadn't expected that answer. It was thoughtful, strategic even. So it's research. It started that way. Now it's more. He met her eyes. Now it's self-preservation. Remembering that I'm not special because of money or status. I'm just a guy who happens to have resources. The janitor version of me is actually closer to who I want to be. And who's that? Someone useful. Someone who fixes things. Someone who earns respect instead of inheriting it. Denise returned for their order. Emma got her usual, blueberry pancakes with way too much syrup. Alex ordered an omelet and toast, but Emma noticed him eyeing her pancakes when they arrived. Want some? She offered, pushing the plate to the center of the table. I probably shouldn't. Oh my God, you're one of those people who monitors their diet, aren't you? Probably has a personal trainer and a nutritionist and does hot yoga. Alex laughed. I have a trainer. No nutritionist. And I've tried hot yoga exactly once and hated every second. Then live a little, Thornton. Emma cut a piece of pancake, drowning it in syrup, and held the fork out to him. Eat mediocre diner pancakes. At midnight like a normal person. He took the fork, their fingers brushing. His eyes held hers as he took the bite, and Emma watched his expression shift from skeptical to surprised. Okay, these are actually good. Told you. Best mediocre pancakes in the city. Emma took the fork back, acutely aware that they'd just shared an indirect kiss. My turn for truth. Why me? And don't give me the, you saw the real me, speech. There had to be other women on night shifts in other buildings you own. Why fixate on me? Alex was quiet, considering. You want the honest answer? That's the whole point of this date. The first time I saw you, before we ever spoke, I watched you help that elderly couple who came in late. You were clearly exhausted, probably at the end of your shift, but you took the time to help them figure out the digital directory system. You were patient. Kind. You made sure they found what they needed before you left. He paused. I've met a lot of people who are kind when it benefits them. You were kind when no one was watching. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. That's just being decent. No, it's not. Decency is a choice. You chose it even when you were tired and had nothing to gain. Alex reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of touching hers. That's what drew me to you initially. The conversations we had, that's what made me stay. And if I'd known who you were from the start, honestly, you probably would have been polite and professional and kept your distance. I would have been another rich guy. Another boss, technically, since Thornton Industries owns the building management company. We never would have had those midnight conversations. Emma couldn't argue with that. She probably would have been intimidated, careful, aware of the power imbalance. So the lie was necessary. The omission, Alex corrected. I never technically lied about my identity. I just didn't volunteer information. That's splitting hairs. I know. And I am sorry. But I'm not sorry I got to know you. His hand finally closed over hers. Emma, I've dated women who knew my net worth before they knew my middle name. Women who Googled me before our first date and showed up with business plans or investment proposals. Women who saw Alexander Thornton III and never looked deeper. You met Alex. Just Alex. And you liked him anyway. I did, Emma admitted. I do. She flipped her hand over, lacing their fingers together. But I'm scared. This, you and me, it feels impossible. We're from different worlds. So we build a bridge. It's not that simple. Why not? Alex's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. Emma, I have a lot of things. Money, properties, investments, a company that runs itself mostly. But I don't have what you gave me in those midnight conversations. I don't have someone who sees past the surface. I don't have someone who calls me out when I'm being pretentious about music or philosophy. I don't have someone who makes me laugh at 2 a.m. over terrible coffee and Thai food. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you barely know. Then let's get to know each other. No pressure. No expectations beyond spending time together and seeing what happens. Emma studied his face, the earnestness there, the vulnerability. This was Alexander Thornton III, billionaire CEO, holding her hand in a dingy diner and looking at her like she was the only person in the world. Okay, she said. But we do this my way. No fancy dates. No private jets or yachts or whatever rich people do. We date like normal people. Define normal. Dinners at places with menus under $20. Movies at regular theaters with stale popcorn. Walks in the park. Coffee dates. Normal stuff. Alex smiled, slow and genuine. I can do normal. I want to do normal. And I get to meet your friends. Not business associates. Real friends. Done. On one condition. What? You let me show you my world too. Not the fancy parts, well, not just the fancy parts. But let me share the things I love. The places that matter to me. Like the loft. Emma considered. It was fair. Relationships were give and take. Deal. But I reserve the right to make fun of you if things are too pretentious. I would expect nothing less. They ate their respective meals, sharing bites and stories. Alex told her about growing up in boarding schools, about the pressure of the Thornton name, about the loneliness of being groomed for greatness. Emma told him about her small-town childhood, her single mother who worked 3 jobs, her scholarship to art school and the debt that followed. Do you regret it? Alex asked. The loans. The degree that led to a job that makes you work night shifts. Sometimes, Emma admitted. When I'm up at 3 a.m. revising mock-ups for the 100th time, I think about my high school friends who became nurses or teachers or stayed in our hometown. They have normal lives. Relationships. Some have kids. Meanwhile, I'm drowning in debt and working nights to chase a dream that might never happen. What's the dream? To design something that matters. Something that makes people feel something. Every designer wants to create the next iconic brand identity or campaign that becomes part of culture. I want to make something beautiful that lasts. Alex was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something without you thinking I'm trying to buy your affection? Emma tensed. That's not a great opening. I know. But hear me out. He set down his fork. Thornton Industries has a venture capital arm. We invest in startups, help them scale. I've been looking for someone to redesign our entire brand identity, not just the logo, but the whole visual language of how we present ourselves. It's a 6-month contract. Pay is substantial. Creative control would be yours. Alex. Let me finish. I can't offer it to you directly because that would be nepotism and inappropriate on multiple levels. But I can put you in touch with the VP who handles those decisions. You'd have to pitch like anyone else. Submit a portfolio. Go through the interview process. If you're good enough, and Emma, I've seen your work, you're more than good enough, you'd get it on merit. Emma felt her throat tighten. It was her dream opportunity. The kind of project that could launch a career. But accepting felt like accepting charity, like becoming one of those people who got opportunities because of who they knew rather than what they could do. I need to think about it, she said carefully. Of course. No pressure. The offer stands regardless of whether you and I, he gestured between them. Regardless of this. That makes it worse, you know. If we don't work out and I take the job, I'm the girl who dated the boss and got hired anyway. Or you're the talented designer who got an opportunity she deserved and happened to date someone after the fact. Alex squeezed her hand. Emma, I'm not trying to rescue you or buy you. I'm trying to share resources that could help you reach your goals. If that makes you uncomfortable, forget I mentioned it. She wanted to be offended. Wanted to throw his offer back in his face and prove she didn't need his help. But she'd spent too many years scraping by, turning down opportunities because of pride or fear. Maybe this was the universe giving her a chance. Maybe she should take it. Let me see the portfolio requirements, she said finally. I'll decide after that. Fair enough. They finished their meal, and Emma insisted on splitting the check despite Alex's protests. Denise raised an eyebrow when Emma handed over cash for her half. Honey, if a man who looks at you like that wants to buy you pancakes, let him. It's a feminist thing, Emma explained. It's a stubborn thing, Denise countered, but she took the money. Outside, the city was quieter, that lull between the bar crowd leaving and the early morning commuters beginning. Alex walked Emma to her car, his hands in his pockets, and they both seemed reluctant for the night to end. So? Alex asked when they reached her Honda with its perpetually illuminated check engine light. Verdict on the first honest date? Emma leaned against her car door, looking up at him. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, making him look younger, more uncertain. It was good. Really good. Better than I expected. High praise. But his smile was relieved. Don't let it go to your head, Thornton. She paused, gathering courage. Same time next week? Next week? That's 7 days away. You have a company to run. I have night shifts to survive. 7 days is reasonable. What about coffee? Alex stepped closer, close enough that Emma had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Tomorrow. Or rather, today, since it's already 2 a.m. Coffee this afternoon? I sleep during the day. Dinner, then. Before your shift. Alex. I'm not trying to rush you. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I've spent the last week thinking about you constantly. Now that I know you're willing to give this a shot, waiting 7 days feels impossible. Emma's heart did that fluttering thing again. Okay, Dinner tomorrow. But somewhere normal. I know a taco truck that parks near your neighborhood. Best al pastor in the city. You eat from taco trucks? Sometimes the janitor gets hungry on his rounds. Alex's smile was mischievous. I know all the best food trucks within a 5-mile radius of every building I own. That's either impressive or slightly sad. Both, probably. They stood there, the space between them charged with possibility. Emma knew she should get in her car, drive home, maintain some distance. But she found herself swaying closer instead. Alex noticed. His hand came up, cupping her cheek with a gentleness that made her breath catch. Emma. Don't talk, she whispered. Just. He kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd pull away. But Emma leaned in, her hands finding the front of his jacket, and the kiss deepened. His other hand slid to her waist, pulling her closer, and Emma felt like every romance novel cliché was suddenly making sense. Fireworks. Butterflies. The world fading away until there was only this, his lips on hers, his warmth, his breath mingling with hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Emma rested her forehead against his chest and felt his heart racing under her palm. That was, she started. Yeah, Alex finished. They stood there for another moment, wrapped up in each other, until a passing taxi honked and broke the spell. Emma laughed, stepping back reluctantly. I should go. Before I do something stupid like invite you home with me. Alex's eyes darkened. Would that be stupid? On our first official date? Yes. What number date is appropriate? I'll let you know when we get there. Emma opened her car door but paused. Alex? Yeah? Thank you. For being honest tonight. For being just you. His smile was soft, genuine. Thank you for giving just me a chance. Emma drove home with the taste of him still on her lips and the feeling that her life had just irrevocably changed. She'd gone looking for answers and found something she hadn't expected, hope. Maybe midnight magic could survive in daylight after all.